Welcome, you sick bastards. Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. Try not to set your houses on fire, blow your fingers off, blow your toes off. Don't drink too much and enjoy some barbecue for the love of God. How are all of you fine, wonderful horror fans this week? I wanted to touch on something a little different. Obviously, I don't have a guest this week, which boo me. I know I suck, but that's okay. I'm working on getting some really, really rock solid, badass guests coming up here soon in the next couple of weeks to months. Just you know, some of the folks that I want to have on are really busy right now working on some amazing shit. Um, that's all I'm gonna say on it. Out of respect for those awesome people. But yeah, coming up here pretty soon, we're gonna be we're. It's me, not a we. Gonna be having some pretty solid fucking guests on, if I do say so myself. This table's wobbly as shit. I need to get a new table. I digress. So yeah, it's 4th of July, Independence Day, and I think it's a good idea to just go ahead and review one of the GOATs titled Independence Day. Right? Like, I can't think of a better movie to talk about today than Independence Day. Some of you might be saying, well, that's not horror. That's to be determined. I think it's horror because there's a lot of really creepy shit in it. There's a little bit of gore, not a whole lot. Spoiler alert for those that haven't seen the 30-year-old movie. There is some gore in it. One of the scientists gets a little bloody in the old Area 51. I think is it Area 51? I don't know. I haven't seen this movie in a long time, so here I am talking about it and don't know shit about it. That's not true. I do know some stuff about it. It's just been a really long time since I've seen the movie. I probably should have watched it like right before doing this podcast. But hey, what are you going to do? I am not a professional, and we know this. So deal with that. 1996. Independence Day, directed by Roland Emmerich. Let's see, who did I have in it? Will Smith, Jeff, the motherfucking goat, Goldblum, Judd Hirsch, bunch of other people. Data, who's the guy that played Data? God damn it, I can't think of his name now, but he's in it. He's the scientist that gets gored up by an alien. What do you think of this movie? It's one of my favorites. I think obviously the production value is dope because it's Roland Emmerich and it's a big Hollywood studio film. So they put some money into this shit, a couple $1 million to film this thing. The flying sequences, the UFOs, all pretty top notch for the time. Even today, this movie still holds up. This movie is legit dope still today, in 2023. I still think that you could find somebody, I don't know, somebody 22, 23 years old. Maybe younger. Let's go younger. Let's say somebody in high school that hasn't seen this movie. They could watch this movie today, and I think they could get just as much enjoyment out of it as I did when I was a teenager in high school, when I watched it in 1996 at the theater. Yes, I did see it at the theater. And it was pretty rad. I gotta say that. It was awesome to see that movie in theaters. They made a sequel, Resurgence, Independence Day Resurgence 2016. I say that like it was a bad movie. It was not a bad movie. The sequel was fucking dope as well. I really, really enjoyed it. But we're not here to completely talk about movies because this is not a movie review podcast. I will do some review-ish types of stuff, but that is not what Hot Death Horror is about. Hot Death Horror is not about doing movie reviews. We're just about talking horror. And today, since we brought up the subject of Independence Day, we are going to be talking about the extraterrestrials, the aliens, and UFOs, gray men, dudes from the sky. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Do you believe in aliens? I sure as shit do. I mean, where do you think I got these glasses? Somebody delivered these straight to me, like out of nowhere. May have been Amazon. I don't know. But is Amazon run by aliens? Probably. Since what's his name? Jeffrey Bezos. Is that how you sing the song? He retired. And who knows who's running that shit nowadays? Because, again, this is Hot Death Horror, not Hot Death Amazon. So we don't talk about who runs Amazon. We do talk about aliens, though, because aliens are horrific. They're terrifying. And I, for one, would be scared straight shitless if I had an encounter with one of these things. Do I believe I may have had some encounters in the past? Possibly. Yeah, I do think so. There was one episode in particular back when I was a teenager, again, was on a road trip going to Yellowstone. And driving back, I was visiting some relatives in Utah, and driving back from the old Yellowstone to Salt Lake City, and it's about, I don't know, hundreds of miles, we'll say. And we passed a sign at probably 7, 8 o'clock at night. I don't know. It was in the evening. We passed a road sign that said Salt Lake City. It was like 164 miles or something like that. And we're driving, and it's probably 3.5, almost 4 hours later. Like, it's almost midnight at this point. And keep in mind, this was back in the 90s. Facebook wasn't a thing. Twitter wasn't a thing. Like, the internet was barely a thing. Let's just say I was not on my phone or my iPad trolling Facebook at that time. I had the straight up Sony Discman with some Tool Enema blaring in the old headphones because that's all I had to do. Look out the window, stare at shit, and listen to music. Or do like crossword puzzles or whatever you did in the 90s to pass the time on a long ass road trip. I digress again. Anyway, so probably almost midnight now. See another road sign that says Salt Lake City, 132 miles, I think is what it said. And I remember it was, so it, full disclosure, it was my biological father. He's kind of a piece of shit. Don't talk to him anymore. But it was him, me, and his girlfriend at the time. And I remember his girlfriend was driving because that dude was always drunk and high and couldn't get behind the wheel to save his ass. And she was driving, and I remember her saying, how the hell do we still have 130 miles to go? We've been driving for hours. And the last sign we saw said like 164 miles. So, time loss? I would say that's a pretty good time loss experience, if you ask me. A lot of folks that have had encounters or abductions, if you will, with aliens have said that time loss is like a big symptom, I guess. Is it symptoms when you get abducted? Is that a sickness? I don't think so. Anyway, that's something that a lot of people have confirmed have happened is time loss. Or a time, time, you're missing time. Missing time is probably time loss, missing time, potato. But I vividly remember that happening. And I know some say, oh, if that was aliens, you probably wouldn't remember it. And, who knows if that's true. Again, I'm not an alien expert, not a ufologist or any of that such wonderfulness. I don't do that. But I can say that that, in fact, did happen. I remember it vividly. I am now 42 years old. I cannot remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but I can remember what it smelled like that night. I remember it so damn vividly. And then, after I left, went back home to where I lived in Washington, my, father, whatever, he called me, a couple months later and said that him and his girlfriend did a hypnosis session and that it was, they told this story of all the events that took place that night. And I won't get into it because fuck him and that's his story. That's not mine. But it was, I will admit it was a pretty rad story, but that, again, that's his story, not mine. So, that being said, I'm curious. Drop some comments. Send me some emails. hotdeathhorror@gmail.com. Get on the damn Hot Death Horror Facebook group and tell me some stories. I want to know some alien shit. Why am I talking about aliens so much this week? I am certainly glad you asked that question. You did ask it because I heard it through these ethers coming through my camera over there. I heard it. I'm talking about aliens because me, dabbling in the indie filmmaking profession nowadays, I am currently in progress on my second film. My first one, The Spoken, by the way, now streaming on POV Horror, Wicked Horror TV, Trashy Horror Movies, free found footage films on demand, I think it's on that one. All kinds of streaming apps. The distributor POV Horror, they run a lot of these apps. So if you want to check out my inaugural film, that's where you'll find it. Will you like it? I hope so. Is the production value shit? Absolutely it's shit. It was my first film. Give me a fucking break. Did I have fun doing it? Yes, I did. I had a goddamn blast doing it. But we've talked about all that in the past. We're not talking about that today. All I'm saying is I'm plugging my first film, The Spoken, on POV Horror and Wicked Horror TV. Get that free trial. Check out my movie. Trash it if you like. I had a blast making it, and it's what's inspiring me to just keep going and do more and more and more movies. Now, back to the topic at hand, aliens. I'm making a second movie. It's called Lights Over Montgomery County. It is going to be an alien encounter mockumentary mix. So when I say mockumentary mix, I'm not going to give too much away because I honestly believe that I'm working on a pretty decent film this time around. I learned a whole lot of stuff from other filmmakers, from my own experiences with making the first film. I learned a lot, and I think I've sharpened up my craft quite a bit. I'm definitely still no expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I've learned about production value. I've learned about over editing. I've learned about under editing. I've learned about cleaning up sound and video quality. All these things I didn't really know shit about when I made the first movie. I just kind of slapped a bunch of shit together and edited it and said, "Here we go. Here's a movie." And I mean, it is a movie. It's a screen life type, found footage horror story. And, about skinwalkers. And, think what you will about it. But again, we're not talking about that damn movie. Stop it. We're talking about Lights Over Montgomery County. Hopefully certified banger. Like, really. I really, really am trying to put my best foot forward on this one. And bring something new and original to the topic of aliens in the found footage horror genre. Because as we all know, there are a lot of alien found footage movies out there. And a lot of them are really, really good. Alien Abduction is one of them, and I'm not talking about now. These are all good, by the way, the ones I'm talking about here. But there's Alien Abduction, Fact or Fiction, or something like that, and then there's the McPherson tape, which was made back in the '80s, which banger of a movie for coming out in the '80s. Like what they did with that was phenomenal. If you haven't seen that, it is free on Tubi and a few others. Check out the McPherson tape. They remade that in the '90s and called it Alien Abduction Incident at Lake County. And that's free on YouTube right now. I'm not real sure where else to watch it, but I do know that that's free on YouTube. Also, really good. I remember watching those two movies in high school and legit being freaked out because, they were presented as being real. Like, Jonathan Frakes was the host of the one in the '90s, and he came on talking about, is this our evidence that alien life really exists? And I mean, it was like a primetime TV show, at the time, and it was presented in such a way that you felt that what you were watching was real, and it was great. So that's a good one. There's another one just called Alien Abduction, and I think that was made back in 2012, 2013. Also, rock solid banger of a found footage alien movie. Like, really, really good movie. That is a solid movie. That one is not free anywhere right now. You have to rent that one. I think you can get it on Amazon Prime and Vudu, but you do have to rent that one. It's like $3, so well worth $3. I spent $3 on it a couple years ago or a year ago, or I don't know. It was a while ago when I had money that I rented that, and I was not sad that I rented that movie, like legit movie. I've talked about this one with my last guest, Holes in the Sky, the Sean Miller story. That one's probably my favorite. I've said that, so I won't go down that road again. But I can't stop talking about that one. It's a fucking phenomenal movie. Fire in the Sky, not a found footage, but an alien abduction movie about Travis Walton. It's his true story. Travis Walton has a couple of different documentaries out. He's been a guest on Joe Rogan podcast. Awesome story. Really creepy. There is a documentary about Betty and Barney Hill. If you have not read up on that story, please read that. That took place back in the 50s. It was an interracial couple that was driving home one night in California, I think, and had just an amazing encounter. Of course, nobody believed them and thought they were crazy, but that's a phenomenal story. Really spooky shit. What else are there? There's a lot of it. Basically, the moral of the story is there are a shit ton of alien movies, found footage ones, and they're all really good. So I have got my work cut out for me to even try and compete with some of these films. But I think I'm bringing something pretty solid to the table. I really do. Most of the core film is done right now, at least as far as filming is concerned. I do have some more scenes. I won't say what kind, but I do have some more scenes that I want to film. But it's going to have a short runtime because that seems to be the new trend. The way found footage is going is short run times. I'm finding that a lot of folks are really starting to check out because of the way we've all been conditioned because of social media and things, that people don't want to sit and watch a 2-hour found footage movie, not even an hour and a half most of the time. And I'm seeing a lot of these movies coming out now, these found footages that are an hour and 5, an hour and 10 minutes, and I mean they're killing it with those. So I'm gonna have a much shorter run time on this one. That's what I want to aim for. That sweet spot right around an hour and 10. Maybe even just a little bit shorter if I can. I really don't want to take it over an hour and 10. Mostly because once it does get on streaming services, if it does make its way onto the Tubies of the world and things like that, they're ad based. So an hour and 10 minute movie could turn into an hour and 45 minutes real quick. And that's all a lot of fans, that's all they see or think about when they're watching a movie is the time they're investing into it. they don't care that it's only an hour and 10-minute movie. They care that they're going to be investing close to 2 hours watching it because of ads and things like that. And, maybe they're going to pause it to go have a bathroom break or take a smoke break or whatever. So a lot of folks could be investing 2 hours into an hour and 10-minute movie. So I definitely want to be mindful of that. And I've got some pretty disturbing content put on film for this thing. I mean, after all, I'm making horror movies, so I want it to be. I want to be known for making horror and pretty much nothing else. Who's to say what I might do in 10 years? But right now, I want to make horror, and horror is dirty. It's nasty. It's disturbing. It's unsettling, and that's the kind of content that I want to put out. That's what I want people to know me for. I want people to watch my shit and be like, ugh, did you like, I couldn't even finish it, or I had to turn it off for a minute and take a break. Like, I want people to finish it, obviously, but I want people to have to turn it off for a second and be like, oh my God, tell your buddies about what you just saw. Like, that's the reactions I want for my stuff. There's lots of other. Dutch Merrick, he's got Horror in the High Desert and Horror in the High Desert too. Legit dope movies, not alien movies, but they're legit dope movies, and they're kind of slow burn, but man, he knows how to build tension and make it gritty and nasty, and just those movies will creep up your spine. The Outwaters, Robbie Banfitch, that movie gets a shit ton of hate, and that's a cosmic horror. I guess you could say it's alien. A lot of people say it's Lovecraftian. I personally think that movie's kind of more along the lines of cosmic alien myself, which Lovecraftian. That's kind of what that is too. But again, potato. I'm sure there's lots of folks we could have debates on that about. But I'm not going to. It's. But again, that's a phenomenal movie. Like, and a lot of folks are trashing it, saying, "Oh, it's not found footage," and this and that and the other. Like, to me, that movie is the definition of found footage. Like, this dude went out and recorded a bunch of shit, and it was found. Like, it specifically says that in the movie. And the way it's recorded, I'm not going to give any spoilers away for those that haven't seen it, but the way that movie is filmed, like, it's the definition of found footage. And it is probably my second favorite movie of 2023 so far, next to Holes in the Sky. I know Holes in the Sky was 2021, but I didn't see it till this year. So it's 2023 for me. Okay? So, yeah, The Outwaters is probably number 2. Skinamarink, that's another one. Again, not alien, but a new, different way of filming found footage. And yes, that one is found footage as well. And yes, it is a good movie. If you didn't like it, then you didn't like it. That's okay. You're allowed to not like shit just as much as I am allowed to like shit. So, love, peace, and hair grease. Anyway, I digress. Once again, I tend to get off topic just a little bit because I am a fan of horror movies, and I like to talk about horror movies and the people that make them, especially if they're rad, awesome dudes, which all of these folks are. Now, I haven't talked to Robbie Banfitch or Kyle Edward Ball from Outwaters and Skinamarink. I haven't talked to those two. I'd like to. So, Kyle Edward Ball and Robbie Banfitch, if you're watching this podcast, unlikely, I know, but if you are, hit me up. hotdeathhorror@gmail.com or Hot Death Horror group on Facebook, or me, Dustin Tamplin, on Facebook. Hit me up. I would love to talk to you too, because your movies are fucking phenomenal. Okay, that rant is over. So, aliens. I don't think you can have too many alien movies, especially alien found footage movies. I don't think you can have too many. That's my opinion. I think if there were 25 found footage alien movies put out a month, I would try to watch them all, because I love alien movies, and I've been intrigued with aliens since I was a young person. There's not much creepier than an alien. There really isn't. If you think about it, like, we're in this universe that's so big, we almost can't even explain how big it is. To think that we're alone in all of that, That's a little silly to me. I don't think, and this is just my opinion here, so don't attack me because I'm not trashing anybody else's opinion, but my personal opinion is that it's a little silly to think that we're alone. You know, it I'm even going to go as far as to say it's impossible. That's it. I said it. I said what I said. Document it right here. 26 minutes and 59 seconds into the Hot Death Horror podcast, Dustin Tamplin said it's impossible that we're alone in the universe. I said that. And it's recorded on the internet, all over the place. The universe is so big, there's got to be something else out there. There has to be other life out there. It's just there's no way there's not other life out there. Just because we haven't found it yet, we haven't proven it yet in our lifetime or in the recent history that we have documented. Just because it's not there doesn't mean that it's not there. You know what I mean? Because our history only goes back so far. Like, before the Bible and things, obviously there's documentation of dinosaurs and things, but there's also documentation and proof that we got our asses kicked billions of years ago by asteroids and ice ages and all sorts of stuff. And they find some pretty weird shit buried under miles of earth that who knows where it came from. You look at things like the pyramids of Egypt and a lot of these structures around the world that were built forever ago. Like, how? How did they do that? Who's to say that there was not a civilization far more advanced than what we are now that wasn't wiped out by one of those natural catastrophes? Who's to say that a lot of this didn't already happen, billions of years ago? Because it's proven that the Earth is billions of years old. Like, can you even imagine how long a billion years is? A million years. Like, none of us will ever see a million years. A million years is a long ass time. 100 years is a long ass time. Very few people see 100 years, So think about a billion years. That is so long of a time to have this planet just be here. And who knows what going on the surface of this thing all those billions of years ago. Because we only have recorded history so far back. They're only so far back have we been able to record history. Back when people were chiseling shit in rocks. So I think it's a little absurd myself, and that's a big word, I know, absurd. That's a strong word to use. But again, it's another one that I'm saying right here on the podcast. It's absurd to me, in my personal opinion, to think that no other life form exists out in the universe or didn't exist previously right here on planet Earth before any of our documented recorded history. I do think... I'm picking my nose. You see that? No, it itches. I'm not picking it. It itches. Allergies are out of control right now. Stupid Texas. It's like 1,000 degrees and humid right now with pollen from all kinds of shit blowing all... We're not here to talk about pollen. What now? See, look what I just did to myself. I went and got all discombobulated because my allergies and my itchy nose, all worried. People are thinking I'm picking it when I'm not. Life forms, aliens, that's what I'm talking about. Anyway, yeah, won't beat that dead horse too much. But there's other life forms out there. Just accept it and move on. There's other life forms out there. There's no way that there's not other life forms out there. And there's no way there's not some out there that are more advanced than we are now. And that could be making their way here. Or have already made their way here. And are, interacting with us in some shape or form on a daily basis. Like, are we downloaded from them? Like, who knows? Are we even real life? We could be a download from aliens right now. Like, this could all be a glitch in the matrix or what have you. A simulation. That's what I'm trying not to say. This could all be a simulation. And there's theories out there on that. And we won't get into that. But alien life form is super duper fantastically intriguing. And that's why I'm making my second film about it. It's going to be gory. It's going to be dirty and nasty. Not all the way through, but there are going to be some scenes of just blood. Just a lot of blood, a lot of guts, and a lot of horror, if you will. Because that's what we do here at Hot Death Horror, is we do horror. Okay? So yeah, I think that's going to go ahead and be it for this week. I say this week like I've been making these every week. I'm sorry. For those that, do like the podcast, thank you so much for continuing to tune in, if you will. I know you're not really tuning into anything, but thanks for clicking on the button to watch me on a video, on a device, on the internet. Where did the internet come from? Did that come from aliens? Maybe. I don't know. But let's not get silly. Anyway, yeah, that's going to be it for this week. So thanks again for tuning in. Apologize for the delay in between episodes. I know my last one, that one was, for me, that was a treat. Ash Hamilton, thank you again, Ash, for coming on. Hope to have you on again in the future, brother. I really do. And got some bangers coming up for episodes on the podcast. I will have more guests coming on, but I do want to more regularly get on here just by myself or even with my kids and just talk about horror, And I know I said with my kids, if I'm bringing my kids on a horror podcast, we're probably not going to be talking about really nasty, gritty, gory stuff. But we will talk about some spooky stuff because, yes, I do allow my kids to watch spooky movies. Sorry. It is what it is. They're not traumatized by it. I'm not forcing them to watch anything. They watch it if they want to watch it, or if they don't, they leave the room and they go up to one of the other 9 or 10 or however many freaking TVs we got in this damn house. They go watch one of those TVs with something else other than scary movies on it. So back off, people that are thinking I'm making my kids watch horror movies, because I'm not, but I should. Because horror is fucking fantastic, and that's why you're here watching and listening to my horror podcast, because we are all lovers of horror. That's it for this week. Thank you so much. Keep it weird. Love you. Bye.